Welcome to this English vocabulary masterclass. Today you'll expand your vocabulary with words and phrases that natives use in daily conversation. You'll learn the meaning, the correct grammar, and natural pronunciation at the same time. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Let's start this masterclass with a vocabulary level test. This test will progress from beginner to super advanced. And it doesn't matter if you don't know the correct answer because you'll learn it and improve throughout the entire lesson. Let's start the test. Level beginner. Your task is to choose the correct meaning. Question 1, cut me some slack. This means A, give me a discount. B, don't be too strict. C, help me finish my work. The correct answer is B. Don't be too strict.
Gia, cut me some slack. Cut her some slack.
For example, you might say at the end of this, Jennifer, cut me some slack if I don't get all 20 right. So don't be too strict, too critical, or don't punish me. If that's what you're thinking, put that's right, put that's right in the comments, and of course I'll cut you some slack. I've even created a free lesson PDF where I explain everything in detail. You can download it in the comments. Question 2, they go hand in hand. This means A, they walk together. B, they look alike. C, they naturally happen together. The correct answer is C. They naturally happen together.
They go hand in hand.
For example, you could say success and hard work, they go hand in hand. They naturally happen together. Question 3, she's my partner in crime. This means A, we have a close relationship. B, we commit crimes together. C, we work together. The correct answer is A, we have a close relationship.
You were my first partner in crime.
For example, we've known each other since we were little kids. She's my partner in crime. So it's an expression you can use with someone you're very close with, a friend, even a spouse or a family member. Question 4, he has a soft spot for snakes. A, he's afraid of them. B, he loves them deeply. C, he avoids them. The correct answer is B. He loves them deeply. Yes, we're talking about snakes, but he has a soft spot for snakes, so it means he loves them deeply.
Larry has a soft spot for animals.
You can use this with anything, but with animals, you can say, I love all animals, but I have a soft spot for cats. Question 5, my new boss is quite blunt. A, he's confident. B, he's direct. C, he's helpful. The correct answer is B, he's direct.
So brilliant and blunt.
This is commonly used to begin a sentence, to be blunt, and then you can say something negative or critical and you can say it directly. To be blunt, I wasn't impressed with your presentation. So how did you do with this level? Share your score in the comments and let's move on to level intermediate. Your task is to choose the correct word to complete the phrase. Question 6, there's a fine between being blunt and being rude. A, line. B, page. C, point. D, thread. The correct answer is A, line.
There's a fine line between tough and crazy.
There's a fine line between and then we need two things, X and Y. It means that these things are closely related and often confused. There's a common expression, there's a fine line between love and hate. These are two very strong emotions, and sometimes they're confused. Question 7, misery loves A, company, B, drama, C, attention, D, gossip. The correct answer is A, misery loves company.
Misery loves company.
This is an expression that means unhappy people. That's misery. Unhappy people often want others to feel unhappy too. So you might use this as advice to a friend. Don't let his negativity bring you down. So make you go from happy or positive to sad or negative. Don't let his negativity bring you down. Remember, misery loves company. This is like saying people who are upset like talking about why they're upset and want other people to talk about why they're upset too. Misery loves company. Question 8, before the movie, let's get into our A, jam, B, pajama, C, PJ, D, jammies. The correct answer is D, jammies.
And let's wear our jammies.
This is the only grammatically correct answer because pajamas or PJs requires an S. The noun is always plural, which is why those options were not grammatically correct because they were singular. Now, of course, pajamas, PJs are comfortable clothing you wear to sleep or relax, like when you're watching a movie. Or you might say, I need to buy some winter jammies. Jammies is the casual, informal way of saying pajamas or PJs. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Question 9, don't to conclusions. A, run, B, leap, C, skip, D, jump. The correct answer is D, jump.
Maybe don't jump to conclusions.
To jump to conclusions, this means that you form conclusions, so your opinion or what you think is true, before you have all the facts. So you might say, before jumping to conclusions, just ask him why he hasn't returned your texts. That's the best way. Question 10, don't ask her for money, she's a cheap. A, skate, B, wallet, C, hunter, D, thrift. The correct answer is A, a cheapskate.
Hey, relax, cheapskate. They're bottomless.
Do you know what this means? This describes someone who doesn't like spending money and tries to avoid paying for things whenever possible. A classic example, she brings her own popcorn to the movies. She's a cheapskate. How did you do with this level? Share your score in the comments and let's move on to level advanced. Your task is to complete the phrase, but this is level advanced, so there are no options. Question 11, she gets upset all the time. I have to walk on whenever she's around. Did you say eggshells? To walk on eggshells.
They walk on eggshells around you.
Now, if you said eggshell singular or eggs or shells, that's incorrect. It must be eggshells plural. To walk on eggshells means that you're very careful not to offend or upset someone. For example, just because Brad dumped me doesn't mean you need to walk on eggshells around me. Question 12, if you want to make him angry, just ask him about his bathroom renovation. That always pushes his Did you say buttons? Again, with the S, always plural.
Madison can push buttons.
To push one's buttons, his buttons, this means you deliberately, on purpose, you deliberately say or do something to annoy or provoke someone, usually just for fun. That's what you do with your partner in crime, with your close friends, with your family members. You might say, honestly, just hearing the name Brad pushes my buttons right now. Because remember, Brad dumped me, which means he ended our relationship. So hearing his name annoys me or makes me angry. It pushes my buttons. Question 13, I don't mean to be a blanket, but I have an early meeting, so can you please turn down the music? Did you say wet blanket?
I'm a wet blanket.
To be a wet blanket, this is a person who discourages fun or enjoyment. You might say, my brother is being a wet blanket. He won't lend us his convertible. And it would be so fun to have his convertible to go to the beach, but he's being a wet blanket. Question 14, he's complaining about the policy because he has an to grind, not because it affects his work. To have an axe to grind, an axe to grind.
Do they have an axe to grind? Is it you, sir?
This means that you have a personal reason or a hidden motive for something. You might say, I don't think she has an axe to grind. I don't think she has a hidden motive. I think she honestly has a soft spot for snakes. And that's why she doesn't want you to plant a garden here, because it will disturb the snake habitat. She doesn't have an axe to grind. Remember that soft spot for snakes? Question 15, don't worry about spilling your coffee. It won't leave a stain. No harm, no. No harm, no foul. Is that what you said? Foul.
No harm, no foul.
This means nothing bad has happened, so there's no reason to be upset or take action. You might say the new intern forgot to mail the samples, but no harm, no foul. We can overnight them to the client and still make the deadline. How did you do with this level? Share your score in the comments and let's move on to level super advanced. Your task is to complete the full phrase based on the reference word. And that's why this is super advanced, because there may be 1, 2, 3 or more words that you need to complete the phrase. Question 16, oh wow, I didn't know you're engaged. When are you not? When are you tying the knot?
When are you two going to tie the knot?
So you need the correct words to tie the knot, and you also need to form the correct grammar based on the sentence. When are you tying the knot? This is a casual way of saying to get married. We're tying the knot next May. We're getting married next May. Question 17, that is such a fancy dress. Why are you? 9s. Why are you dressed to the nines.
He dresses to the nines for every occasion.
This is when you wear very formal or very fashionable clothes. You might say, I'm so excited for Mary's wedding next May. I love getting dressed to the nines. Question 18, why is Remy sitting in the front seat? I called shotgun.
I call shotgun shotgun!
To call shotgun. This is when you claim the right to sit in the front passenger seat of a vehicle. So someone might say, is everyone ready to go? And you're about to go on a long drive. And you say, I call shotgun. That's how you claim that your seat is the front passenger seat. And then maybe the person replies, that's fine, I'm happy to sit in the back. Question 19, Trisha spent 20 minutes in my office talking about the weather before she finally asked me for the day off tomorrow. It was a simple request. There was no need to push. There was no need to beat around the bush.
Stop beating around the bush.
This is when you avoid talking about what is important. So she was talking about the weather instead of what was important, her request for a day off. So you might say to someone, stop beating around the bush and just say what's on your mind. Be direct, maybe be blunt. Remember that? Question 20. Brad told you he wants to spend the next 10 years traveling. It doesn't sound like he wants to get married or have kids. You need to between lines. You need to read between the lines.
Read between the lines.
This is when you understand someone's real feelings or intentions from what they say or do. So Brad didn't say, I don't want to marry you or have children, but he did say he wants to spend the next 10 years traveling. So if I read between the lines, maybe I understand his intention. Here's another example. She said she wants to come on vacation with us, but reading between the lines, I don't think she can afford it. Amazing job. Now let's keep going and you'll learn the meaning of 15 very common words that natives use, and you'll learn the meaning in context. The first word is mingle. Mingle. Do you know what this means? Understanding meaning depends on context. So here's an example sentence. She enjoys mingling with colleagues at after-work events. Now, do you know what this means? Mingle is a verb. You could tell by the sentence structure she enjoys doing something, an action. Now to mingle, this means to move around and talk with different people in a social setting. And that's how it was used in that example. It can also mean to mix or combine. So I'll share an example of that as well. So to move and talk, you can say at the conference, guests mingled over coffee before the keynote speech. So there was talking and there was movement as well. Now, in terms of mix or combine, this sounds quite poetic. You might say the smell of fresh bread mingled with the aroma of coffee in the cafe. So those two smells combined and mixed. Now let's listen to some natives using this word in real speech.
We're gonna mingle here for a little while.
And again, those are groups that don't often mingle.
This let their genes mingle and expanded the gene pool.
Our next word is loom. Loom. Dark clouds loomed on the horizon. What does this mean? Well, hopefully you know that it's a verb, and this means to appear as a large, uncertain, or threatening shape. Now, it can also mean to seem about to happen. So those dark clouds, they could represent a threatening shape. Now, let's listen to this one. The deadline looms closer every day. So this sounds like the deadline is getting closer, but it's threatening. Here's another one that sounds threatening or uncertain. A tall figure, so a figure is an outline of a person, a tall figure loomed over him in the dark hallway. That sounds like something you would read in a horror story.
Deadlines loom, competing commitments clamor for our attention.
President Trump ends the year defiant, but challenges loom.
Let's see if you know this very common word, pebble. Pebble. I think I have a pebble in my shoe. What is a pebble? Well, you know it's a noun. A pebble is a small, smooth stone found on beaches or riverbeds. I personally have pebbles all over my yard because they're used to cover the path instead of concrete. So you can say the path was covered in pebbles. It's really quite pretty. Or you might say she carried a lucky pebble in her pocket. A lot of people have a lucky charm. A beautiful pebble that you found on the beach could represent that.
Every pebble that you see on the ground there is a piece of dinosaur bone.
That one person can be like a stone, a pebble, thrown in a lake.
This is an image of a pebble mosaic that I created.
How about dabble? Dabble. He dabbled in photography during college. So what does this mean? You know it's a verb, right? You saw it in the past simple. Well, if you dabble in something, in our example, photography, it means you take part in an activity, but in a casual or superficial way. So you're not dabbling with your English, you're serious, right? But there are many times when you do just dabble for pleasure, for general interest, curiosity. For example, I'm not a serious musician. I just dabble from time to time. Or many people dabble in cooking, new recipes, but never get serious. And that's okay.
We knew we would always dabble in that because it was something like a hobby that we enjoyed.
Well, today I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything.
The military is not supposed to dabble in domestic affairs.
Our next word, pry. Pry. She hates when neighbors pry into her personal life. What does this mean? Well, you get the sense that it's something negative, right? She hates. And you know, it's a verb. To pry means to try to find out private information about someone or something. It has another meaning, and it's when you open something with force. But with the first meaning, to find out personal information, we commonly say, I don't mean to pry. I don't mean to pry, but... And now you're going to ask someone a personal question that you're not sure if they feel comfortable talking about. So you use I don't mean to pry to acknowledge that you're asking about a personal question. I don't mean to pry, but did you set a date for your wedding yet? Maybe this is a sensitive topic for that person. Now, to try to force open, you can say he pried the lid off the paint can. It was difficult to open.
We also need to apparently pry them away from their modern miracles.
You don't have to pry into people's inner work lives. In fact, that would really be a bad idea.
Along with Peter, she's going to pry open the lid for us on how the lobby works.
Our next word, hunch. Hunch. You might say, I had a hunch she would get the promotion. Oh, I had a hunch. So hunch is a noun, and a hunch is a feeling or guess based on intuition rather than evidence. For example, his hunch, because it's a noun, it belongs to him, his hunch about the weather turned out to be right. So he didn't look at the forecast, he just felt like it might rain, even though it was a beautiful day. And guess what? It rained, so his hunch was right. Or you can say they followed a hunch and discovered a great new restaurant. They didn't have any evidence, it was just this feeling, a hunch.
We tested her and her hunch proved correct.
I think she had the hunch that I wanted to be an actor.
You know, it's my hunch. Just do it. Don't think about it.
How about urge? Listen to that pronunciation, urge. My mom is urging me to set a date for the wedding because she won't stop prying into my personal life, right? So what does this mean? Well, it's a verb and it means to strongly encourage or persuade. So you might say she urged him to apply for the new position. You should apply, you must apply, please, please, please apply. So that's how you can urge someone. Or the ad urges customers to try the latest product.
But Howard urged me to open myself up to uncertainty.
Baron Cohen urged the billionaire club, dubbed the Silicon Six, particularly Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, to take more responsibility.
I really urge you to pay attention to every bit of what you put into the dish.
Let's review cling. Cling. The child clung to her mother during the storm. What does this mean? Well, you know it's a verb and you just learned that it's an irregular past simple, clung. And the verb cling means to hold on tightly. Now it can be physically, so the child clung to her mother, but it can also be somewhat emotionally as well. So physically, you can even say wet clothes clung to his body after the rain. So you know what a t-shirt feels like when it's soaking wet. It clings to you. Now, more emotionally, you might say some employees cling to old habits. So they hold on tightly, but it's not to something physical, it's a habit, instead of adapting.
It must also be attracted to the glass, causing it to cling to the side.
So we don't have to cling on to things that just don't work.
But we will always cling to the comfort of what appears to be useful.
Do you know this word? Blunt. Blunt. She gave a blunt answer to the question. Blunt is an adjective. It means direct and straightforward, but sometimes in a way that seems rude. So he was known for his blunt way of speaking. If he doesn't like your shirt, he says, "I don't like your shirt." He's very direct and straightforward, but that can seem rude sometimes, right? It depends. Or remember when I explained we add, "I don't mean to pry, but," we often use the same technique and say, "I'm sorry to be blunt, but," you're apologizing in advance for saying something very directly that may seem rude. "I'm sorry to be blunt, but you're not qualified for the position."
Because to be brutally blunt, they put test prep on steroids.
If I may be blunt, why are you here on the Vogue floor?
Well, he lost his patronage, but he's very blunt about it himself.
Let's review brash. Brash. Teenagers can sometimes seem brash without meaning to. What does this mean? Brash is an adjective. It means confident, but in a rude, noisy, or pushy way. So not a positive way. You might say his brash behavior annoyed his coworkers. So maybe he felt so confident in his idea, but he was pushy about it. And he told everyone else their idea was bad. Or the salesperson made a brash pitch to the clients. The similar meaning as I just explained.
He was brash, irreverent.
Most commonly, we associate these traits with brash men.
Bernini was a brash young man of 25 when he sculpted this.
Let's review aloof. Aloof. My teenager is so aloof. Well, this is an adjective This often describes teenagers. It can describe anyone though. If you're aloof, it means you're not friendly or forthcoming, so you're rather emotionally distant. If you ask your 16-year-old son how his day was and he's just like, good, maybe you could describe that person as aloof. Or you might say she remained aloof during the meeting. So she didn't say a lot, she didn't show her emotion, so you don't know if she's happy, upset, you just don't know. Or the manager stayed aloof from the office gossip. So in this case, it sounds a little more positive because the manager just ignored the gossip, didn't respond to it, just remained distant from the gossip.
My peers and my boss all thought I was aloof and arrogant.
I became very, very aloof and removed and was a loner.
I think rock musicians are more aloof.
Do you know this one? Hefty. Hefty. She received a hefty raise after her performance review. This is an adjective and it's positive. It means large, heavy, or substantial. So in the context of a hefty raise, that's very positive. A large raise, a substantial raise. But it can also mean heavy. He carried a hefty bag of groceries. Or in this case, it's not positive because the company paid a hefty fine. A fine is a penalty, a financial penalty. So you want the penalty to be small. You don't want it to be hefty for breaking the rules. That's why they have to pay the hefty fine.
To one is still a hefty ratio.
It's a little hefty.
I'm drizzling each with a hefty hit of yellow food coloring.
Let's review bolster. Do you know this word? Bolster. The data bolsters our argument. Bolster is a verb and it means to support, strengthen, or improve. So he tried to bolster her confidence before the speech. That's a positive thing. Or extra funding will bolster the research project. It will improve it.
Let us seize this moment together. Let us bolster security. Let us seek new avenues of peace.
I can bolster my own identity.
And that's why we'll continue to bolster the defense of our frontline allies in Poland and Romania.
Do you know the word meager? Meager. Dinner has been meager since I lost my job. So always look to context. If the person lost their job, well, it's probably negative, and it is in this case. So meager is an adjective. It means very small or insufficient in amount. You can say the workers received a meager salary. Not a positive thing. Or they survived on meager resources during the trip. They had insufficient, very small amount of resources.
They had like very plain, bland food, a meager diet.
A lot of sales guys will come from meager backgrounds.
The price for the 7 vertebra is a meager $295.
Let's review daunting. Do you know this word? Daunting. Climbing the mountain looked daunting from below. Again, look to context for meaning. This is an adjective. It means seeming difficult to deal with or intimidating. Starting a new job can be daunting, intimidating, difficult to deal with. She faced the daunting task of organizing the event. So just by adding the word daunting, you know that organizing the event seems like a difficult, challenging task.
1,048,576 discs would be daunting, but entirely doable.
It was daunting to think about the scope of the project.
It was daunting. It had really beaten it out of me.
Wow, think of everything you've learned. Now let's focus on the C1, C2 level, and you'll learn 16 commonly used words. Have you heard the adjective nefarious? Nefarious. This is a C2 level adjective. Notice that pronunciation, nefarious. This is an alternative to common words that you may know like wicked, evil, or criminal in nature. You might say he was involved in a nefarious plot to steal company secrets. So an evil plot, a bad plot, a wicked plot. And remember, it's an adjective, so it modifies the noun, a nefarious plot.
I'm not suggesting anything nefarious, it's just how it is.
Or perhaps the company was accused of nefarious business practices, so criminal business practices. Or, in question form, are they really capable of such nefarious acts? I heard this adjective many times from native speakers when discussing business activities. How about this C1 adjective? Disparate. Disparate. This means essentially different or unrelated in nature. This was a common one when making comparisons. For example, they combined two disparate ideas into one innovative product. So two seemingly very different, even incompatible ideas.
And combination, as we all know, is the root of innovation, combining disparate ideas, people, and resources to come up with something entirely new and different.
Or you might say these findings are too disparate to draw a single conclusion. Or perhaps as a question, were the groups always this disparate in size and opinion? So very different. One group had 5 people and another group had 3,025 people. You may be familiar with this C1 verb, streamline. Streamline. This means to improve a process or system by making it simpler and more efficient. This one was very commonly used. You'll hear it a lot, especially in a business context, or if you're giving a more formal presentation, you can use this word choice. We need to streamline our production process to reduce costs. So we need to improve, but for the purpose of efficiency. Or you can use this in the negative. She didn't streamline the workflow as planned, so there were a lot of losses in time or money. Or you might ask, how can they streamline communications between departments? So notice here is streamline communication, so improve the efficiency of how the two departments communicate. That one is absolutely a must-know in your everyday vocabulary, even though it is an advanced word.
We can use this IV person as a way to streamline that communication.
How about this? Scrutinize, scrutinize, scrutinize. This is a C1 verb. Native speakers will often use a flap T and say scrutinize, scrutinize. You'll hear both. Scrutinize, scrutinize. This means to examine something very carefully. And you often do it for the purpose of trying to find flaws or errors, mistakes. That's why. So you might say, I always scrutinize the ingredients before buying anything. So you review it very carefully, and maybe the flaw is there is a high amount of sugar or something bad for your health. Or in a more professional context, the manager scrutinized every detail of the report, which is the role of a manager. Or someone might ask you, did you scrutinize the contract? Did you review it so carefully that you are confident we're not signing something that has some hidden flaw in it? Did you scrutinize the contract?
These data are scrutinized both by markets and by researchers.
Next, let's review proliferate. Proliferate. This is a C1 verb. This means to increase rapidly in number or to spread quickly. I heard this a lot when referring to the media. For example, fake news has proliferated on social media in recent years. It has spread rapidly.
And those stories have proliferated across this nation as young men and women serve and fall.
You can use this with something every day like rumors, false or just information that hasn't been verified that people share with each other. The rumors didn't proliferate as expected. So that could be a positive thing because you're using it in the negative. And this is very commonly used in a science perspective. For example, how did harmful bacteria proliferate in that area? How did it spread or increase in number so quickly? Next, let's review fallacy. Fallacy. This was very commonly used by everyday native speakers. This is a C1 noun, and a fallacy is a mistaken belief. And it's one usually based on faulty reasoning. So maybe you didn't scrutinize the contract, so there's a fallacy, a mistaken belief. You might say it's a fallacy to assume that more money always leads to more happiness. It's a mistaken belief. Or he didn't recognize the fallacy in his argument. So he had some beliefs in his argument and he didn't recognize is a more advanced word, that they were mistaken. They were based on perhaps false information that was proliferated. Or how about this as a question? What common fallacies do people believe about success? So this could be an interesting question that people would discuss or debate. And notice that plural, fallacies. Fallacies.
It's a fallacy to think that, well, you know, we signed this and everybody has coverage. No, it's not true. And then of the people who do have coverage, a lot of them have huge copays and deductibles.
This next one is very common, caveat. Caveat. This is a C1 noun. Now, a caveat is a warning. It can also be a condition that must be considered. For example, you could say to your kid or even your sister, your friend, you can borrow the car with one caveat.
However, be careful. There's one caveat.
So it's like saying on one condition, if you're familiar with that expression, with one caveat. So one warning or one thing to consider. It's the terms of the agreement. And what's the caveat? No highway driving. So you can drive anywhere, not on the highway. Or perhaps she ignored the caveats and faced the consequences. Ooh, so there were some warnings, but she ignored the caveats. She didn't scrutinize the contract, so now she has to face the consequences. Or as a question, were there any caveats attached to the agreement? Remember, with the driving example, the caveat was you can't drive on the highway. So in many times when you enter an agreement with someone, there are caveats. Let's review incorporate. You may be familiar with this one. It's a C1 verb. It means to include or integrate a part into the whole. For example, the design incorporates elements from traditional art. So they took this traditional art and then they put it into the design. They incorporated it. Or for example, they haven't incorporated the feedback into the final version. So the final version does not include. Or as a question, how do you incorporate user suggestions into development? That could be an interview question if you're a developer.
We have to be able to incorporate that into the larger context of how the future may be unfolding. It's one piece to the puzzle.
Our next phrase, to be predicated on. This is a C2 phrase. Notice it's the passive verb. To be based on or depend on something. That's what predicated means. So you might say his entire argument is predicated on outdated data. So to be predicated on, you conjugate the verb to be. Their assumptions weren't predicated on facts, so the past simple plural. As a question, is your strategy predicated on long-term trends? So again, more commonly, based on. This is a more advanced version, predicated on.
The entire project is predicated on this act of love, which is listening itself.
How about incentivize? Do you know this C1 verb? Hopefully you do, because it has a great meaning. It means to provide incentives or motivation to encourage an action. So an incentive is something that I give you because I want a certain behavior from you. So I might offer you money in exchange for subscribing to my YouTube channel. That would be a great incentive, wouldn't it? I'm not going to do that. Maybe I would offer you something easier to provide, but that would be a perfect incentive for you. Difficult for me. So the government incentivized, this is the verb form, so to incentivize. The government incentivized green energy adoption. So perhaps the government provided the company with tax breaks, tax savings, to incentivize them to adopt green technology.
And so this is a way of trying to incentivize all these corporations who are sitting on all this money abroad to start using some of their huge resources.
Or in the negative, they didn't incentivize their employees effectively. So they didn't give them the rewards needed to produce the behavior wanted. Or in question form, how can we incentivize better performance? How can I incentivize my students to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel? Maybe I'll just ask you, can you please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel? It would mean the world to me. So hopefully that's enough of an incentive for you. Now the next one, to be an advocate of. This is a C1 phrase, it's a noun phrase. So this means to actively support a cause, idea, or policy. She's always been an advocate of, and then something, mental health awareness. So notice again, you have your verb to be that you need to conjugate. Here we have it in the past simple negative. He wasn't an advocate of the new policy until recently, perhaps. So he didn't support it until recently. Or as a question, are you an advocate of remote work? Do you support it? Do you promote it? Are you an advocate of remote work?
I'm a law professor, lawyer, and civil rights advocate.
Now our next one, magnitude. This is a C1 noun, magnitude. It's the great size, importance, or extent of something. They underestimated the magnitude of the crisis. The importance or significance, it could be in terms of size or just impact. The magnitude of the earthquake wasn't reported accurately. Or can we truly grasp the magnitude of this challenge?
We're reminded that discoveries of this magnitude don't happen overnight.
Let's look at elicit. Elicit. This is a C1 verb. If you elicit something, it means you draw out, you evoke a response, information, or reaction. So you cause it to happen. For example, the teacher's question elicited thoughtful answers from the class. He didn't elicit any useful information during the interview.
As an interviewer, I know that questions elicit answers in their likeness.
Or can you elicit feedback from the participants? How about this one? Inextricably. Inextricably. Notice that pronunciation? Repeat after me. Inextricably. This is a C2 adverb. So you can change it to other forms, but here is presented as an adverb because it's the way I heard it most commonly used. And this is in a way that is impossible to separate. So this is a great one because you might say culture and language are inextricably linked.
They're inextricably linked. And I think they make us better decision makers.
So notice, as an adverb, it modifies the verb linked, which means connected. And inextricably means that you cannot divide them. So you can't learn a language without learning about the culture. Would you agree with that? Maybe that's my question that elicited an interesting discussion. These two issues aren't inextricably connected, which means you can separate them. Or here's an interesting question that might elicit discussion. Are our identities inextricably tied to our jobs? So you have your identity, Jennifer, and then I have what I do, English teacher. Is it possible to think of who I am without thinking of what I do? Or are they inextricably tied, which is another way of connecting? I think that would definitely elicit a useful or interesting discussion. Now let's review culmination. This is a C1 noun. It's the highest or final point of something, especially after a process. For example, the concert was the culmination of years of training. So it was the end result, the final but highest point of years of training. You might say it wasn't the culmination we had hoped for. Or was this event the culmination of their work? Was it the highest point or the end result?
This is a culmination of my life's dream. I'm so happy to enter the order. This is such a blessing.
Let's review simultaneously. You may have heard this one. Do you feel comfortable using it? Simultaneously, simultaneously. Notice this is the adverb form. It's a C1 adverb. It simply means at the same time. The film was released simultaneously in several countries. So we have Japan, Germany, and Puerto Rico, and at the same time, simultaneously. You can use this in the negative. She didn't complete the tasks simultaneously, which might be a good thing, not to do two things at the same time. Or you might ask, are we supposed to start the tasks simultaneously? Or should I first do one task, finish it, scrutinize it, and then move on to the next task?
He is simultaneously one of the most impactful and tragic scientists of all time.
And how about this one? Erroneously. Erroneously. Have you heard this one? It's very commonly used. It's a C2 adverb. It simply means in a mistaken or incorrect way. Erroneously, you can see the beginning part looks like the word error. So that might help you remember that it means in a mistaken or incorrect way. The data was erroneously interpreted. So the data was interpreted incorrectly. There was an error when interpreting the data. Or you might say, we erroneously thought the meeting was today. You may be comfortable with we mistakenly thought the meeting was today, so you can replace mistakenly with erroneously. Or you might ask, was the system erroneously programmed to shut down early? So was it programmed but incorrectly, mistakenly? Was it erroneously programmed to shut down early?
The media and public erroneously believe that the majority of post-9/11 vets have a mental health disorder.
Now you have advanced words that natives actually use, and you can too. Do you want me to keep helping you expand your vocabulary? If you do, put let's go, put let's go in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.